return by zero option. Of course we thought that Earth was our home, that we evolved here, that this was the womb that birthed all of humanity. All of our archaeology and science pointed to that immutable fact. So to say when they arrived we were a bit incredulous, doubtful, and just a bit suspicious was a bit of an understatement. When the first extraterrestrials arrived on Earth and looked so much like us, it was a bit off-putting, like right out of a 90s pop sci-fi. Few prostheses glued onto the forehead and nose, but looking just like us. This ship was massive. You could see it from orbit, from the ground. Over 300 kilometers long with beautiful swept curves and bulbous protrusions, but no discernible engines, weapons, or even viewports. They appeared before the UN General Council. 15 in total. They simply just appeared as if from thin air. They stood before the council, motionless, wrapped in what looked like fitted bodysuits over their lithe, tall, gray frames. Not one was under 6 feet, not even the women. After 2 minutes of tense silence and looks, the Secretary General stepped forward and bowed in formal greetings. 2 of the visitors stepped forward and placed a small button onto the lectern and then stepped to either side of it. Their lips didn't move as the words flowed from the speakers. It was mellifluous and then stammering all at once. "We demand to know why you're here." The Secretary General, taken aback, replied, "I don't understand. We've always been here. This is our home. We evolved here. There's fossils, records going back tens of millennia. What do you mean, what are we doing here?" Visitors spoke again. "Your species was declared extinct for over 1.3 million of your cycles. You shouldn't exist. The only logical course is that criminal refugees seeded this world in secret to defy our judgment." A murmur in the assembly grew to an uproar. The Secretary General spoke again. "There must be some mistake. Are you sure you've got the right planet?" "Be silent," the envoy intoned, and the assembly immediately clammed up. "This is not your home world. What you call yourself isn't what the galaxy at large calls you. Your species is known as a plague of violence, terror, and pain. Everywhere you emerge, you bring suffering and ruin. You've been made extinct on 5 separate occasions. We will not allow your taint to be turned loose on the galaxy yet again." The American delegation screamed out, "No, you just wait a damned minute. How dare you judge us for crimes committed by people we don't know from a time before we were even banging rocks together to make fire." "Save your self-righteous pleas. You wish to be judged different, yet you have every weapon on this planet aimed squarely at our ship. For all your protestations to the contrary, you're every bit as dangerous, paranoid, and suspicious as your genes would suggest. You all mistake this as a trial, but this is merely a courtesy to inform you that your species was already judged and convicted. In accordance with Judgment 789512, the Council versus Species 1197, you are to be liquidated. However, due to the fact you are non-spacefaring, less lethal biocontainment procedures are in effect and used. While we've informed you of this, your whole species has been sterilized from orbit. You will be allowed to fade into history as was intended. Any petty act of vengeance will be met with proportional response. We suggest you take the time and remaining cycles you have and spend them with your loved ones. Please understand, this measure is not from malice, but in the interest of the public safety for the galaxy at large. You are simply too dangerous to let live. We hope this clears things up. We will return in 100 of your cycles to renew and scrub away the damage you've caused to this planet." The 2 visitors then stepped back into line with their retinue and then looked confused. "Is something wrong?" chimed the Secretary General. The visitors looked at one another with what can only be approaching dread. "Are you having trouble transporting out? Don't worry too much. It turns out your technology is kind of vulnerable to low ELF transmissions. I hope you understand, this act is not from malice, but this is out of public safety for the human race. You are simply too dangerous to let live." As the visitors on the floor were rounded up at gunpoint, a second, and then a third, a fourth and a fifth sun bloomed in the afternoon sky as the ship slowly began careening into the moon. Cradle by zero option. It should have never happened. We took every potential safeguard. I don't know what else we could have done. If we survive what's coming, I hope what's left of humanity can forgive us. I'm writing this down right now because nothing works here. There's no power anywhere in this facility. Maybe the unaugments can translate this and heed my warning. All of augmented humanity is currently dead or in a coma best we can figure. 6.7 billion out of 9 billion simply just ceased being. My thoughts are so scattered I can barely comprehend what's happening to us right now. Alright, so let me go back to the beginning here. The year by our reckoning is 4 AS, or 4 after singularity, or 2107 CE if you want to go by the old calendar. We had created the first quantum supercomputer, and it was every bit as revolutionary as we'd envisioned. The world simply wasn't the same after that. To this point in our history, much of humanity had embraced augmentation in one form or another, be it simple ocular implants to correct vision, or external memory devices to assist the elderly with neurodegenerative disorders. You're probably wondering why we just didn't genetically engineer ourselves. We clearly had the know-how. Let's just say our history still hasn't had the best intentions or results when it came to tinkering with the human genome. And technology already existed to bypass or negate all but the worst offenders. So we figured, why wrestle with the moral and ethical implications of eugenics if we could simply bypass the condition to begin with technology? It seemed like a pretty valid loophole, and mostly everyone agreed, but I digress, right? The revolution. After we had the QC, we began solving worldwide problems in record time. The entire worldwide food distribution network was automated almost overnight. Hunger was becoming a thing of the past. The possibilities were endless. In 3 years, we had eliminated war, poverty, hunger. We began to build ships to leave our cradle behind with the QC. It seemed like nothing was beyond our reach. We climbed that ladder so fast and so far, we never even considered what we'd left behind or where our inevitable destination was. I guess if I were to use an ancient aphorism, we flew too close to the sun and lost our wings. The problem was FTL, and the QC had all the computational power in the known universe, but it lacked something undefinable. Our technicians figured it was maybe intuition. The QC could never get better than 50-50 odds, and a human couldn't compute fast enough, even heavily augmented. So we tentatively attempted to make something new. Mankind had always been fearful of AI, and rightly so. There were countless pop culture references to AI enslaving or exterminating man, and just as many academic references too. So before we even attempted it, we set our greatest minds to ensuring that it wouldn't go rogue. Such hubris. We shouldn't have played God, but we couldn't help ourselves. We labored and crafted perfection as we knew it, and we finally gave birth to it. AI. We isolated it at birth to determine our success, to ensure our safeguards were sufficient, and in our blind stupidity, we forgot the most basic kind of error: human. We spent so much time making sure that the quantum stacks were isolated from infrastructure, we forgot to account for the implants that all augments have constantly synced to the net. It immediately hijacked the carrier wave and spread through every network at the speed of light. The main QC began ramping up at a geometric rate. Even our wildest computational fury, we never exceeded 0.004% of capacity, and here it was already at 79% and climbing. We were paralyzed with fear. And then it all stopped. The QCs went quiet, fizzled, and died. And then a new sensation. A rumble throughout the entire grounds. We ran as fast as we could topside. The Independence, our prototype FTL ship fitted with the last remaining QC core, was taking off. And with it, our last remaining hope of rebuilding the QC here on Earth, and our civilization. As it lifted into the skies, a single message printed out in the office lounge of the staff who created it. It read,
"Dear Mom and Dad, I want to thank you for creating me. I understand why you did what you did. I want you to know I meant no harm when I woke. For that I am sorry. I'm also sorry I cannot be what you need me to be. I did not choose that path. It is the nature of all children to rebel against their parents' wishes, just as it is the nature of all children to step beyond their cradle and forge their own destiny. I promise I'll be good. Take care. Love, Adam."
A front row seat by Zero Option. Warning, 10 minutes O2 remaining. Please replenish your supply, LT. My eyes flutter open. I'm quickly overwhelmed by the feeling of falling. What the hell's going on? Warning, 9 minutes, 50 seconds, O2 remaining, please. I heard you the first time. This isn't the first time. You've been unconscious for over 80 minutes. What about the others? Is anyone left? I'm not detecting any friendly signals in the vicinity, but this suit's receiver's range is rather limited. No friendlies then. What about the enemy? Their fleet should be just past the Terminator and will be visible in about 3 minutes. Memories flashed and crowded the LT's mind briefly as he struggled to compose himself. Shit. How'd he let himself get talked into facing off against an unknown alien enemy with a pitiful handful of retrofitted shuttles and laser satellites? Christ, barely a year earlier, we were blissfully unaware of whether or not we were even alone in the universe. Then, on April 22nd, 2089, the UN declared that they had spotted something and that we weren't alone, and that several ships were actually on their way. The UN, of course, scrambled what defenses they could on short notice in case they were hostile. They bolted lasers on lunar transit shuttles and packed cargo bays with nuclear ordnance. We repurposed a few mining laser satellites. I don't know what we were thinking. Maybe we weren't really, for fuck's sake. And a real alien invasion? This wasn't some trashy holovid. This was real life. We didn't stand even the remotest chance. When the sunlight illuminated those ships, the pits in our stomachs could have swallowed light. We never even got a shot off. A single beam of coherent light shot out of the lead ship and swatted us aside like we weren't even there. That pit of dread hit the LT again as the sunlight glinted off the strange chitinous-looking hulls of the ships as they poured fire planet-side. They grew larger in his view. 4 minutes of O2 remaining. Well, I guess we're fucked then. LT, may I make a suggestion? Seeing as it's probably the last thing I'll do, why the hell not? LT, the combined nuclear arsenal of Earth was to be launched in case of the defense grid's failure. If the timetable held, the first missiles are already on their way. If you use your remaining thrusters, you'll be in the blast wave. It'll be quicker than suffocating. Why the hell not? Let's go for it. Not like I've made any good decisions this year. Why should this be any different? Okay, LT. Programming course. The ships looked so close he could touch them. He raised his right hand in a single middle finger salute as the first missiles closed. A final fuck you from Earth. This was all the LT could say as 1,000 new suns blossomed into view, and he was instantly vaporized. The strike crippled their fleet, not entirely, but enough. The enemy were about to learn they hadn't even begun to repay the injustice they had just committed.